Hello and welcome to what promises to be yet another thrilling instalment of action from weeks 2 and 3 of Divisions 5F and 5G of the REL League. I'm your host, Callisti Mayer, the Golden Apple of Discord. So, as you may have noticed, there's just me talking to you this week in this video, and I also mentioned in my intro to the this week's episode that we were covering weeks 2 and 3 of 5F and 5G. Unfortunately, Pixofa is no longer able to continue being the co-host on this show. So we actually had a recording session scheduled for Tuesday of last week. Then he had to reschedule, and then Wednesday he reached out to me and the admins just to let us know that as much as he hated to do it, he wasn't no longer able to be the co-host on the show. He has a lot of real life commitments. He just started a new job, has a young baby, and I just don't think he really had the time to really sort of fully commit and give you guys the episode you deserved. So I respect his decision to bow out, and totally understand it. But it did leave me in a little bit of a bind because I wasn't able to record an episode for you Wednesday, and then it was sort of, the week was going long. So I made a decision to not record an episode for last week and not give you an episode that was rushed and probably an inferior product. And instead, I've decided to give you a 2-week episode this week. Next week it'll go back to just covering the week that just passed, and looking forward to the week ahead. But this week it's going to be a 2-week episode. I've been hard at work flexing my design and videographer muscles, recording some sort of special segments for you. So we're going to have a highlights. We're going to highlight a game from each week in each division. So this episode is going to be 4 games. And then there was also the intro video that you saw when you first joined the cast. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the action, and we'll begin. So we're in Division 5F. We're just going to take a quick look at the schedule. So all of the week 2 games were played, or match day 2 games were played. So we had admin game, which was a 1-0 win for the Kevland Krakens. And then we also had the Infectious Rippers. That was again another admin win for Gambas Gals. Then we had our first real match. We had Flingin' Fun versus the Sylvania Slayers. And that was a 2-1 win for the Halflings, which was a big surprise. Then moving on, we had a 1-0 win for Murderers Row, and they're really shaping up to be a team to be reckoned with. Then we had a 0 draw for Raskin Bobbins and Happy Go-Go. Then we had a 0 draw again for Thrash Can, and Rebel Rage Quit. And then rounding up the week, we had the Oklahoma Sooners versus the Harlem Globetrotters, and that one ended in a 1-0 win for the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, I actually watched the Oklahoma Sooners game, and it was a good one. It nearly made it into this week's highlight reel, but I actually went in a different direction. I actually posted the Halfling game, because that one was great as well. So just to give you a quick recap on or an update on the Oklahoma Sooners versus the Harlem Globetrotters, it seemed to be a game for the Harlem Globetrotters of failing pretty much every GFI that he went for. Probably a little bit of a weakness in positioning. He could have probably flexed his AG4 muscles a little bit more. For the Oklahoma Sooners, he had a lock on the game pretty early. I think sort of turn 3 or 4, all of the Dark Elf team were laid out, face down on the pitch. And he was dominating, but then he started doing this stall thing, which wasn't very well protected, because the Harlem Globetrotters kept on jumping up and making a very weak effort to blitz the ball carrier. I think he blitzed the ball free, but he didn't really have someone in backup to pick up the ball. Probably would have been better for him if he'd just sort of got players up, got them into position, and in the next turn, because I think the Oklahoma Sooners were stalling from about sort of turn 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. It was a fair few turns to go until he finally scored. Then they ended the half 1-0 up, and then the second half, it was just like a slobber knocker, bum fight extraordinaire. Again, the Harlem Globetrotters' luck with GFIs and blitzes just really wasn't working out for them. I think if he'd had better luck, it would have been a more even match. And I'm not sure whether Jay Tanoki, the coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, was just having a laugh and chilling and coasting along. But he seemed to be sort of making a fair few sort of positioning errors, and then rounded out the match. He could have scored easily to go 2-0 up, but then spent the last 2 or 3 turns, like turns 14, 15, 16, fouling with his troll, and on turn 16 finally got the troll sent off and didn't end up scoring. So it could have been a much different result. If the Oklahoma Sooners were taking it a little bit more seriously, they could have been 2-0, 3-0 up. If he was taking it seriously, then maybe there were a few positioning mistakes. And then for the Harlem Globetrotters, he just needed better luck. And also to work on his strategy a little bit more as well. So that covers week 2. And then for week 3, we still have the admin win games yet to be admin winned. So that's going to be a win for the Sylvania Slayers, and the ReBBL Rage Quit are going to get a win there as well. For the actual games that were played, we had Gambas Scals losing 1-0 to Murderers Row. That was a real highlight game. I watched that one as well, and I have highlights for you coming up in a second. The Kevlin Krakens won 1-0 over the Happy Go-Go. I watched that game too. That was an injury fest. It was quite a lot of fun. It nearly made it into my highlights for this week. But I went with the Gambas Gals versus Murderers Row because that one was a little bit more impactful. You'll see in a moment. Then we had Flingin' Fun in a 2-2 draw with the Harlem Globetrotters. And then we had Once Bitten in a 1-1 draw with the Oklahoma Sooners. And then we had Raskin Bobbins beating 1-0 Thrash Can. That was the Nurgle-Off, and I watched that game too, and it was uneventful. I suppose that's what you get when you have 2 Nurgle teams facing each other that are underdeveloped. There's no sort of really exciting skills on the teams, and it was a little bit of a slow-moving brawl, push me, push you, pull you, sort of. It dragged, but anyway, I watched that game and it was a deserved win for Raskin Bobbins. Taking a quick look at the leaderboard. Now we have Sylvania Slayers and ReBBL Rage Quit. Both are going to earn a win. So that's going to put ReBBL Rage Quit at 2-1-0, and Sylvania Slayers is is going to put them at 1-0-2. So right now we have Murderers Row, coached by the Doc M. He's on a tear. He was winning 3-0. He's won 3 games. We have the Oklahoma Sooners in second place with 2-1-0. Then we have Raskin Bobbins may not be the most dynamic team right now, but this Nurgle team is winning, and they're in third place. In fourth, we have Gamblers Gals at 2-0-1. As I said, we're going to see the highlights of his last game in a moment with the Doc M. It was an exciting game. Really good. Then we had the Kevlin Krakens in 2-0-1 as well. Then we have Rebel Rage Quit. Oh, no, so Rebel Rage Quit is actually going to be placed higher because they're going to get that admin win. So they're going to be in fourth place. Then we have Flinging Fun with all ones. Same thing with Once Bitten, coached by Bud Tugley. All one win, one draw, one loss. Same thing for Thrashcan. Then we have the Harlem Globetrotters at 0 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses. Happy Happy Go Go Taco Truck is at 0, 1 and 2. And then sort of rounding out the bottom of the pack here, we have the Sylvania Slayers at 0, 0 and 2. The Evil Fury is an admin team, and the Infected Rippers is an admin team. So there's only 12 teams, so we have those 2 admin teams. Hopefully we're going to get some new coaches starting in this division shortly. I do know that one of the other New Blood divisions did have a new coach starting yesterday, so hopefully 5F is next on the agenda. And let's take a very quick look at a few team development. Now, I'm not going to cover the ones we have the highlights for because they're getting enough love this episode already. But let's take a quick look at the Krakens. So the Krakens are they're developing well. They have let's see what in new skills they have. Okay, so they have this one runner with Jump Up. We have the Berserker with Stand Firm. I'm not sure about that. I'm not the biggest Norse coach, but I do have a good understanding of them, and I probably would have gone for like a Mighty Blow just to start racking up those SPP. They are going to be your main kill pieces. Having one with Stand Firm, I don't know, it's not it wouldn't be my first pick. He does only have 2 team rerolls, so he at the start of the season he went for more positionals and sacrificing team rerolls. Maybe he doesn't need it as much as other teams, but I would like to see him get that 3rd reroll at some point soon. It's a compact squad. He only has 10 players. He's had a few deaths. But yeah, doing well. Another team we're going to look at is going to be let's take a quick look at Rebel Rage Quit. So Arabi, the self-confessed murder coach, the most violent coach, or he wants to be the most violent coach and feared coach in the division. Let's take a quick look at his team and see how it's developing with an eye to the murder. So we only have the 1 skill up, which is on a blocker, which is great. He's got Mighty Blow. Still has his 6 blockers. He's got that Bull Center he picked up. Remember, he started the season with the Minotaur, the blockers, and no bulls. So he picked up a bull. He has 2 team rerolls. He has an apothecary. Still very compact, and still not. He's not racking up the SPP, but I'm sure he's got to be happy with that level up on his blocker. And one more team we're going to take a look at. Let's take a look at Once Bitten. So Once Bitten has, let's have a look. They have the 3 vamps. They have the rest RELs. He has the 4 rerolls, which is great. He has an apothecary. Now the vampires, they have regen already, but it's always good to have an apothecary to have in your back pocket just in case. Although you do have to make that choice of using apothecary before you have the regen roll. And I'm not sure if they've patched the whole sort of telling sign of if you see the cutscene for the injury, whether or not the apo has worked, or the regen has worked or not. But still, good to have an apothecary. He does have a level up on one of his meat sack number 7, has block, and this vampire Lestat de Lioncourt, from the Anne Rice novels, has block as well. And then we have another vampire, Gabriel Belmont, that is close to leveling. Okay, so now we're going to transition through to our highlight videos for the weeks. So we're going to be covering, for week 2, we're going to be covering the Flinging Fun win over the Sylvania Slayers. That was a very entertaining match. And for week 3, we're going to be covering the Gambas Gals versus Murderers Row. It was a win for Murderers Row, but it was a very interesting game. I think you're going to enjoy it. And it's not always one-sided as the scoreline shows. Our first highlight of tonight is the Flinging Fun, the Halfling team versus the Sylvania Slayers. Now, the Flinging Fun, throughout the course of this match, displayed great pitch control and ability to really tie up their opponent. The Halfling team did take Puggy Bacon Breath as their star player and used him to great effect, as well as the Treeman. Now, the Slayers did get the first drive. They won the toss and they chose to go on the offensive. Unfortunately, Puggy was there to save the day for the Halflings. He managed to blitz the vampire ball carrier Hunter von Drachenfeld, gain possession. Then the Halflings were able to clear the scrum that had formed, move across pitch, storm up the pitch to go score a touchdown, stall, and then again with wonderful pitch control managed to create a screen to allow their ball carrier to stall, and then Griffo Heathertoe was able to score the touchdown, leading the Halflings into the second half 1-0. Moving into the second half, it was the Halfling drive, but the Vamps, they managed to get a blitz on the kickoff event, but they couldn't capitalize on that blitz until 2 or 3 turns later. When they did gain control, they managed to pass from one vampire to the other, but then Puggy Bacon Breath was there yet again to blitz the ball carrier, steal the ball, pass it off to Lotho Cotton, who marched up the field to score. Again, wonderful pitch control by the Halflings, allowing their Halfling player to stall and score. Welcome to the REL League Division 5F highlight match for Week 3. Gambas Gals, the Amazon team, were looking to overcome the terrifying visiting necromantic team, Murderers Row. Murderers Row did receive in the first half and proceeded to slowly move down their left side of the pitch, with an amazing screen that kept Gambas Gals at bay. Gambas Gals, for their part, were able to kill a werewolf. First they powed, and then they fouled to death. At seeing one of their teammates die, the necromantic team went on a frenzy, hitting Amazon players left and right, injuring their thrower, and generally causing much mayhem, while slowly moving forward for the score with Ghoul John Wayne Crazy. This put the Necromantic team ahead 1-0, with only one turn left for the Amazons before the end of the half. They had to either score or cause maximum damage, which they did. They had stunned 2 zombies and then fouled with their star player Helmet, causing yet another death. Helmet was sent off, and so ended the first half, with Murderers Row 1-0 up. Heading into the second half, it was the Amazons' drive. They received the ball. They proceeded to move up the pitch, bashing everything that came in across their path. Might is right, but not that right, because they faltered, they fell, they were sacked. The ball, let loose, was scattered and thrown in across the pitch. The Amazons tried to recover. They picked up the ball. They attempted a throw, last-minute throw. It was intercepted, and so ended the match. 1-0 to Murderers Row. Welcome to Division 5G. So you guys were very productive in weeks 2 and 3. So let's take a quick look at the action and see how you guys did. So starting off top of the list, we have the Big Bad Baby Eaters in a 2-0 win over the Austin Knights. Moving on, we have the Dolgan Lions and the Thunderstrike in a 1-1 draw. BioWare for Life won 2-1 over the Castlevania Creeps. Mount the Tetons won 1-0 over Cheetahs and Such. We Chillin' and Running Goofs, the Skaven team, had a 1-1 draw. These Violent Delights beat Scooby and the Gang 2-0. And then we had, rounding off the list, we had the Farm Animals losing 2-1 to the Lizard Techers. Now let's take a look at week 3. So we still have 2 games yet to play. The Austin Knights versus the Dolgan Lions, and the Running Goofs versus the Farm Animals. Luckily, these 4 teams are at the bottom of the leaderboard, so their match results aren't going to affect the top end of the leaderboard. We'll take a look at the leaderboard in just a second. But the actual games that have been played so far, we had a 2-2 draw for the Big Bad Baby Eaters and BioWare for Life. We had Thunderstrike and Mount the Tetons in a 0-0 draw. We had Castlevania Creeps versus We Chillin', and that ended in a 1-1 draw also. Then we had Cheetahs and Such losing to These Violent Delights 1-0. And then rounding out the list, we had Scooby and the Gang beating the Lizard Techers 2-0. Now let's take a quick look at the leaderboard. So topping the leaderboard with the Amazon team, These Violent Delights, coached by Rodog, at 3 wins, 0 draws, 0 losses. Then in the number 2 spot currently is the Big Bad Baby Eaters, coached by Fizzle P. Now I actually have their match from week 2 is one of the highlights for this week. Then we have the BioWare for Life, coached by Dire Sickfish in 3rd place, again at 2 wins, 1 draw. The Lizards Techers by Blargrag is in 4th at 2 wins, 0 draws and 1 loss. Also at 2-0 and 1 is Scooby and the Gang, coached by Travel Scrabble. Castlevania Creeps, coached by Vapor Gecko, is coming in at 6th at 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. We have Mount the Tetons, coached by Brian 506, at 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. We Chillin' seems to be the one of the unbeaten teams, but can't convert any of those strong defenses into a win. We do know that the Dark Elves are a very strong defensive team, so it's good to see that he's not letting touchdowns happen, or he's not letting the scoreline run away from him. But would like to see him get maybe a few wins rather than all draws. But he's at 3 draws. Then we have Thunderstrike, coached by Wolfram Jax, at 2 draws, 1 loss. And then Running Goofs, the Dolgan Lions, the Farm Animals, and the Austin Knights are all at the bottom of the table, and they still have a game yet to play, so they could creep up the leaderboard a little bit. And the one team left that has played all 3 games is Cheaters and Such, the Goblin team coached by Max Adams. Again at 0 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses. Quick look at team development for a few teams. So let's take a quick look at BioWare for Life. Your game versus the Castlevania Creeps on match day 2 almost was one of my highlights. So I just want to take a quick look at your team development. So Dire Sick Fish has been suffering a little bit, I think. We have only a 9-man roster. We have 2 vampires. One is close to a 2nd level, and both vampires have got a movement up, so that's great. Although it might be nice to have a vampire with more skills rather than stat ups. I maybe wouldn't have taken that 2nd movement up, but that's me. I probably would have gone for one with something stable like block or wrestle. Just to add some stability and survivor ability to your vampires, because they are, if you lose those, then you're in a whole world of hurt. He does have 5 team rerolls, which is great, and then he has an apothecary, which gives you extra insurance for promoting the health and long life of your vampires, or long unlife. And things I'd like to see for this team is maybe get a bit of bank and afford either a 3rd vampire. Yeah, actually that would be my suggestion. Rather than getting more, you have to get back to an even kill. You would have to get 2 more thralls, and loners are going to be just as good. So get a bit of bank, get a 3rd vampire, and then maybe start saving up. You don't need any more rerolls. You don't need obviously you don't need an apothecary, and then just start saving up to stock up your thralls. But for right now, it's going to be a loss leader for you to start buying thralls, because you're going to get loners in your next match, and they'll be just fine for a nice bloodlust target. We're going to take a quick look at Cheaters and Such, coached by Max Adams. So you have the 2 trolls, you have a loony, and you have a bombardier right stuck in there at the bottom of the list. You don't have any levels. Oh, you have one. You have one troll with guard, which is great. But definitely try and get some level ups on the other troll, and maybe this loony, and also think about getting a fanatic. This goblin is our dig is close to leveling as well, so that might be nice. Maybe if you can get him like a touchdown, or maybe even a an injury. It's trying to get sort of a vanity pass is not going to happen, or it's very unlikely to happen, and getting injuries with goblins is again unlikely to happen. But it might just be nice to have one of your goblins with a level, just to make you feel like you're accomplishing something. But you have the 4 team rerolls. You can afford an apothecary. You can also afford that fanatic that Pixover was talking about last week, or 2 weeks ago. He really rates the fanatics, so maybe take his advice and get one. And then also let's take a look at these Violent Delights, the Amazon team. So we have Ford the Thrower, who is a 8 SPP, went for Strong Arm, so got a double, I believe. Then we have these two catchers, Ed Harris and Don't Call Me Billy, who went for block, surprise, surprise. So now you have 6 blodge pieces on the team. And then you have these linos that 3 of them are relatively close to leveling. Maybe just get them a touchdown and a vanity pass on some of them, and you're going to have a few more blodge pieces. My advice would have been, rather than taking block on these catchers, maybe actually no, that's fine. That's fine on those blockers. But when you level up some of these line women, maybe develop one as a ball hawk and give it wrestle and maybe tackle or strip ball, just to give you an extra arrow in your quiver, or whatever the saying is. Now, ReBBL, you have 4 team rerolls. You have an apothecary. You're doing really well, as we saw. I think you were in 2nd place. So going great guns. Just carry on what you're doing, and you should be good. And then one more team we're going to take a quick look at. Let's take a look at the Austin Knights. Still have a game yet to play, but they lost their first 2 games. So let's just see how this team is developing, this human team. So we have 11 players on the team. We have 3 team rerolls. We have the apothecary. We have an ogre who's leveled, which is great. He's got guard. And then we have, do we have any other level ups? No, we have 2 pieces that are close to leveling though. We have Wilhelm Glennon, the blitzer, who's close to leveling. So maybe go for tackle or mighty blow. And then we have this catcher, Jay Jackron, who is close to leveling as well. Definitely think you would probably want to go for block, make it a nice safe piece that is going to be harder to take down. And yeah, just go out there and get some wins, so you can increase your bank and cruise up the leaderboard. Now, as I said, we have a highlight for Division 5G from each week of that we're covering, so weeks 2 and 3. The highlights that are coming up for week 2 were the Big Bad Baby Eaters 2-0 win over the Austin Knights. That was a good game. Watched it. I thought it was a great game. And then we have week 3. We had Scooby and the gang and their 2-0 win over the Lizards Techers. That was a game that I was really impressed with Travel Scrabble and his Scooby and the gang team. It's a Necro team, and he dominated. You're going to see in the highlights, I thought it was very, very strong on positioning, very strong in terms of having an objective and achieving it, and making sure that his pieces were safe and that he wasn't going crazy. It was a very, very solid game by Travel Scrabble. So enjoy the highlights. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Check out my YouTube channel. Maybe if you're enjoying the episodes and you want to sort of be notified when the next one pops up, just subscribe, so that way you can be up to date. And let me know what you thought. Let me know of any new features you'd like to see, and yeah, give me any feedback, good or bad. Looking forward to it all. Welcome to the REL League Division 5G highlight match for week 2. The fearsome Big Bad Baby Eaters, the Chaos Dwarf team, were hosting the Austin Knights, a human team. The Austin Knights won the coin toss and elected to receive the ball in the first half. Upon receiving the ball, the Austin Knights proceeded to move down the right side of the pitch. Unfortunately, it was short-lived, as the Chaos Dwarf team managed to pick up the ball and score with Fluffy, Eater of Souls. The Chaos Dwarf team ended the first half 1-0 up on a defensive touchdown. Moving into the second half, the Austin Knights had to defend and score to equalise the match and possibly even win. Did this happen? No, not quite. The Chaos Dwarf team received the ball and proceeded to move up the pitch. They managed to blast through a screen and score with Babyface, their bull centaur. The Big Bad Baby Eaters managed to win the match 2-0. Welcome to the REL League Division 5G highlight match for Week 3. This week we had Scooby and the gang, the Necro team, hosting the Lizardtekers, the Lizardman team. The Scooby and the gang decided to receive in the first half and proceeded to move up the pitch in an awesome display of positioning and sheer ferocity. They managed to surf a number of the Lizardmen players, injure a few of the Skinks, and move on in for the touchdown. They scored with their ghoul Shaggy and went 1-0 up. The rest of the first half proceeded with much ferocity and much bashing, and a failed attempt at a pass by Skinks in turn 8. So ended the first half with Scooby and the gang 1-0 up, and very much in control of the match so far. The second half saw the Lizardtekers receive the ball and have a stalled, failed drive, and give up the ball to the Necromantic team, who then proceeded to score. The Necromantic team were always in control of this game, and they won quite convincingly 2-0.